Hi everyone, as you can see I've got a fine selection of classics in front of me here in varying degrees of decay, and one gradually inching its way towards completion for a customer. There's a reason I've got all this lot out here today, and the eagle-eyed among you might have spotted the red tape I've got stuck to the tyres on these machines. And that's because I thought I'd discuss tyres, and this is not me sort of being an out and out expert and know-all on tyres, but I know a bit. Obviously I've accumulated a bit of knowledge over the years, and some people often sort of wonder what size a tyre is compared to what the old size was and whether it'll fit and so on. So I thought I'd have a look at these machines and touch on some of it anyway. And first of all, the Royal Enfield Constellation we got here has got 19-inch wheels front and rear, and on the front it's wearing a 325 by 19. Hopefully you can see that there, just about. There's a 325 S19, and I'll come to that in a minute. But this 325 19 is very much the same size as this 360 19 H19, 360 H19 that I've got on the front of the old Honda CB500T. So the 360 19 and a 325 19, and there's also another size called a 90 90 by 19. Those three are all pretty much interchangeable and should pretty well fit where any of the others might fit. They're all pretty much the same size and profile and whatever. So that's your 325 19, 360 19. Incidentally, the 360, just to confuse matters, is actually a skinnier tyre than a 350 by 19, which is what we've got on the back of this Royal Enfield here. We got a 350 S19. Now that is a fatter, chunkier tyre, and the front equivalent of a 350 19 would also look fatter than the 360. So that's a bit confusing and misleading. And there's another size that likewise, and I haven't got an example of it directly, that does a similar sort of thing, and that's the 410. And the 410 is actually an equivalent of a 350 and is skinnier than a 400. So that's all worth keeping in mind. But anyway, there's your 325 and your 360, and then here we've got a 350 19. Now you can see, if I step back, the 350 19 on the front of the BSA looks far more fat and chunky than the 360 that we've got on the Honda. So that makes it pretty clear. Over here on the Trident we've got 190 by 19, and that actually says on it replaces 350 by 19. So the tyre on the front of the Trident and on the front of the BSA A65 and on the rear of the Royal Enfield, those three tyres are all basically the same size as each other, and therefore should all be interchangeable. Moving on to the rears, let's see, we've already seen that the Royal Enfield has a 350 by 19 on it. On the Honda here I've got, the camera will pick that up, it's a 425 85 H18. Now originally I chose to run oversized tyres on this because originally this would have had a 410 18 on the rear, and it looked a little bit, just a bit skinny on the rear end. I'm not one for putting great big fat chunky tyres on things, but I think it just improved the look of this machine generally, and actually while I'm on the subject, next time around I'll probably go back to a 350 or a 410 on the front of this machine as well. But that's what we've got for now. So 425/85 on the rear, which is very similar to the 400 S18 K70 that we got on the rear of the BSA. So we've got 425/85, 400, and then we come to what's on the back of the Trident, which is a 110/90 V18. And all three of those tyres are very, very similar. The only thing I would say is the rear tyre on the Trident and the rear tyre on the Honda are the closest in comparison to each other, because the 425/85, that's your aspect ratio, and what it really means is the 425 is the width and the 85 is the depth of it in sort of percentage of the width. So it's a wide, lowish profile tyre. The 418 is just 4x4, and then likewise this one, we got 110/90. 110 is the width, 90 is the depth relative to each other. So that's why this one and the 425/85 on the back of the Honda are the most direct comparisons. But the 400 will also fit where they fit and vice versa. Although, having said that, I did have a 110/90 18 on the rear of this not so long ago, and it did actually make contact with the mudguard if you hit a bump very hard at speed, and so far this tyre hasn't done it, so it's just that little bit slimmer. So that's what we got there. So I hope that I'm making sense and not boring everybody, but we've established that the 360 and the 325 are interchangeable, and like I say, there's also a 90/90 size, which is another one. Then you got your 350, your 410 and your 100 are all interchangeable, and then obviously here is another example of a 410 equivalent size, or a 350 if you prefer, and that's the 100/90. Now speed ratings, interestingly enough, on this Japanese made Dunlop I got on the front of this thing, I only bought it a couple of weeks ago and fitted it, there's actually no letter, there's no S or H or V, but it's a 4-ply 4PR tyre. All the others have got speed ratings on them. Oh, and incidentally, the yellow circle there, when you're using an inner tube, you put the yellow circle as close as you can to the valve to aid balancing. That's all built into the tyre beforehand. But getting back to the letters, we got the S, the H and the V. I made a note of them here, and what you basically got is this. S is up to 112 miles an hour, H is up to 130 miles an hour, and V is up to 149 miles an hour. And I'm pleased to say that I got V's on the Trident, although H would have probably just about covered it, but let's not forget that that's got a tuned 850 Hyde motor in it, so not that I'm going to be wringing its neck, but V's are more than adequate for it, and the S's really are more than adequate for these two twin cylinder machines here, and that one there of course. But I only just spotted, like I say, that the front one, the Japanese Dunlop, doesn't seem to have a speed rating embossed on it at all, but the rear one, made in Indonesia of all places, does. That's an S. So just goes to show it can be a bit of a minefield, and there's plenty of choice out there if you can sort of understand or half understand what the sizes mean and what's interchangeable with what, and I hope that this might go some way towards helping people choose and decide what tyres they want. Another thing while I'm on is a lot of people berate these Avon SM Mark IIs, and I've got to be honest, when I used to listen to people talk about them years ago, the thought of having them on a motorbike used to terrify me, but I've ridden quite a few pretty powerful and large classic machines and ridden them quite hard wearing this sort of rubber, and I've got to say it doesn't worry me in the slightest anymore, and you do actually get very good wear out of these. The only thing I wouldn't do with one of these is stick it on the front, but other than that, nothing wrong with them at all. The K70, that's a good all-round sort of universal pattern that could even lend itself to a bit of gentle green laning if necessary. The TT100s need no introduction, they speak for themselves. They're great fast cornering tyres on the old classics, and the Trident is actually wearing pretty much up to the minute rubber there with its Avon Road Rider Mark IIs, which I'm happy to say are not the sort that I had on the A65, which were from 2007 and had started to delaminate. So also just bear in mind, folks, the date codes, where the first two figures represent what week it was in the year. Let's see if I can find one. You're normally in a little sausage shaped bit of the rubber like that, and the second two figures, let's see if I can find one. Second two figures are the last two figures of the year. Let's see if I can find one here. No, it's not that because it's not in the sausage sort of area. There's the valve position again. Ah, here we are. There's the date code, look, it's in there, 31/22, so that was the 31st week of 2022. So I hope that maybe I might have just helped a few people understand and perhaps be able to make good choices when it comes to selecting and fitting tyres. And also, I like to fit, every time I change the tyres, I like to fit a new inner tube as well, because they're not expensive and your life could depend on it. And quite frequently, if it looks like it needs it when I've got the tyre off as well, I'll change the rim tape, because again, they're not expensive and you don't want a spoke nipple or the stray end of a spoke, which you shouldn't really have protruding through the nipple, but sometimes they do. Not everyone builds their wheels as carefully as they should, and you could end up with one of them poking into your tube. So choose wisely and ride safe, everyone, and I hope this helps. Okay, I'm happy to share what little I know about this with you, and like I say, I'm not an out and out tyre expert, but I hope that this can be used as some sort of guide.